Good evening and welcome to the Freakcast. I am the head freak, I guess. My name is Stephen Carroll, and tonight we have a special guest, Anna Kuykendall, and we're gonna talk a little bit about FTD. So hang around, and you'll hear what that's out. So hear that's all about. So here we go. We're gonna get started. Here's our intro.
There's no air in this room. I'm somewhere, lost my shoes. In this mind, you will see who you're really gonna be. Hollowed out, filled with sin. Keeping watch, I don't pretend. Feelings throw you to the ground. Pick it up and spin around. Stay true, I don't wanna be in this room. Stay true, I don't wanna be in this room.
All right.
There's no air in
Welcome to the Freakcast. We're glad you've joined in. If you're watching us live, we're glad that you've joined in with us here live. That was our theme song. It is called Stay True, and it is by Kids in a Daze. If you have not followed him, make sure that you do that. His Instagram is here for you, Kids in a Daze. And so I hope that you will go and follow him. Got some great music. I love the song. The song's all about staying true to our vision, to our purpose, to what we're about. And that's what this Freakcast is all about. It's the opportunity to connect with people just like you and people that have faced extraordinary things, whether it be a cancer diagnosis or an illness or a family situation or whatever the case may be. We all have a story, and every story matters, and your story needs to be told as well. I always talk about this passage, this verse. It's Revelation 12:11, and it says that they overcame the enemy by the power of the blood and the word of their testimony or their story. And that's such a powerful thing. And so we are all about that. And it's about self-care, strength, support, spirituality, and us walking this journey out together. And so we want to walk that with you. So if you're watching live, welcome. Feel free to comment. If you got questions along the way, make sure you do that. We will try to get to those questions as we go through the podcast or the Freakcast tonight. If you're listening back later on Spotify or iTunes, thanks for joining in. Make sure you subscribe and follow us if you will. We also have a YouTube channel, Fight Like a Freak, and you can watch back there on video as well. Tonight we are super excited to have as our guest Anna Kuykendall, and so I am going to bring her in here. There she is right there.
Hello.
Hey Anna, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. I think it's a little cold. But
Yeah.
yeah, other than that, and then I think I told you earlier we were kind of getting ready. I've had my wedding business hitch and spin, and I had four Zoom meetings that I knew of at 3, 4, 5, and 7, and then I had one more that I almost kind of slipped up on, but we got it in, so it was all good.
Yay.
But now I'm excited to get to chat with you and talk to you tonight, and so thanks for joining in with us.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here. So I'm trying to think back, and I know we talked a little bit beforehand, but I'm trying to think back to when we first met. I know the girls were the connection, I guess, right?
Yeah. I was asking Tori about that tonight. She said that her and Megan met in the 6th grade. So it's been 11 years now.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And, I think
Crazy.
back and I'm like, wow, just between the Carroll family and the Kuykendall family, I mean, we've really gone through a lot of life. And the fact that
know.
the girls still, remain friends and have each other for support. I love that.
Yeah. Well, and you're obviously, you and your girls are just amazing, and we'll get to talk about that later. And of course, Tori has been over at the house and stuff, and she's been so supportive and encouraging um, to Megan and to us, and all your girls are awesome. Of course, you are as well. But that's hard to believe. 11 years. I remember coming over like to y'all's house for one of the first times. Because it is you try to connect and meet with the your kids are hanging out with, and so. And I remember coming in the garage, and of course we'll get to Craig in a minute, but I remember seeing Craig there in the garage and hanging out with him a little bit and just getting to talk to him and just I don't know, just so welcoming. Y'all's home was always so welcoming, and Megan loved going over there and hanging out with you guys for sure.
Yeah, if you got caught by Craig in the garage before you walked into the house, you were lucky. So,
Man, I was very fortunate. That was I don't know, that was awesome. That was cool to be able to I don't know, have those moments for sure. Obviously, not knowing of what was going to take place later on, which we're about to talk about, but just your home and your family. I just love the way that you guys live out life, and I think what was great was it wasn't that you didn't just start living life out loud like recently. You guys lived life like that. I mean, together as a family, before everything took place as well, right?
yeah. Um, Craig and I, we met Thanksgiving weekend of 2009, and it was here at Fat Dogs in Forney.
Was
And
it really?
yep, and of course, I thought, no interest in any kind of, relationship, but he asked me to dance, and I tell you what, that dance just kind of set us up for so much life together.
Right.
So very thankful.
That's awesome. So you guys met in 2009, and so do you guys just kind of give some backstory, I guess, a little bit.
Sure.
So, um, Craig and Anna, y'all met in 2009, and kind of fill in the gaps there as far as like when you guys, as far as connecting and everything.
Um, so obviously we'd both been married before. And we both came with a lot of baggage, a lot of baggage. And none of that seemed to deter, either one of us. When you know that something is good and something's right, it just kind of, happens. Uh,
Right.
8 months later, we were married
Really?
in our yard. Yeah, we had just our girls and our parents and our siblings there. I mean, honestly, it was perfect for us. Couldn't have asked for anything more. Just a very small, intimate setting. And that's how the end of Craig's life was as well.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
thinking
So,
back, it's just kind of a full circle.
so you guys met at, you met, had a dance together, and 8 months later you're married.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about baggage, I mean, Lord help us. I mean, we've all got it, from something, and we've all got to work through things. And um, it's funny because I had this talk that I did years ago, and it was talking about baggage, and it was based on this story in the Bible about a guy named Saul, and there's a part in there where they were looking for him because he was supposed to be king, and the verse says that he was hiding. If you break it down like in the modern language, he was hiding among the baggage, or he was hiding among everything. And I think we can hide behind it or we can deal with it. And I think that's the thing that I love about just your story and knowing what I know about you guys. And when y'all got together and you guys getting married, that was something that here we are. We're just going to deal with this stuff and and build our life together with the girls. And I love that about you guys.
Yeah. It was a fun life
Yeah.
together. Obviously it was the kind of life that dreams were made of.
Yeah.
Um, we got the opportunity to show our girls, what real, true, unconditional love is. Both, for husband and wife, mom and dad, from parent to children. And it's something that, I know that they appreciate and that they will carry through their life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of to get into your story, and one of the things, the whole the whole point of the Freakcast is um, just this idea of every story matters, and we all have them. And your story, Anna, yours and Craig's and your family, your girls, y'all's story obviously has impacted a lot of lives around our community, around our hometown here just outside of Dallas and beyond, which we can talk about later, whether it's through your Instagram page and which is scrolling at the bottom of the ticker here. But just all that you went through and how you kind of walked out, and so many people are aware of what you guys faced because of you being willing to share your story. And so um, for the ones that obviously don't know and listening for the first time, just kind of begin to fill in the gaps, like after you guys got married and just got together, and then when this diagnosis came out of nowhere for you guys, and we just kind of bounce it back and forth a little bit. But I know I've heard some, but I'm looking forward to just hearing more about what you guys faced, because I know it's been challenging and difficult, but man, you guys have faced it with such grace and faith and strength and and vulnerability, and it has definitely made an impact on my life. And so I'm looking forward to people getting to hear more about it from you as well. So just kind of walk us through a little bit, and we'll kind of see
Sure.
where it takes us.
Um, so when FTD, frontal temporal degeneration, that we'd never heard of before, when it started kind of creeping up on us, it was late 2018. And really, it presented itself in just very odd, different, strange behaviors. So just inability to make decisions, needing constant reassurance. Craig was a truck driver for UPS, and the dude knew every highway system all across America. I mean, he could literally get from here to, the tip of Maine,
Hmm.
and was always on point. And something happened, and at some point he started using maps, just regularly, even to get to the other side of town.
Wow.
And we knew that that was really, really out of character. There were He was not able to make rational financial decisions, and really kind of withdrew from all of the relationships that he had, really kind of including us. And we didn't understand. So
So it was
we,
just kind of it was something that just kind of took place out of nowhere. I mean,
yeah.
just kind of changed it. I mean, because I was going to ask that, because you kind of answered it. He would he It was out of character for him to be doing what he was doing, to respond to the way he was responding.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it was very out of character, and a lot of people noticed, not
Yeah.
just us. So it was in the workplace and with friends and, family. But really, at home, we could see a lot of it. And it was scary, it was alarming, it was disturbing. Initially we kind of were almost, accusatory, like, what is going on? What are you doing? You on drugs? Like, what's going on? We couldn't explain the behavior. And initially it was kind of like irregular and inconsistent.
Hmm.
um, as the symptoms got worse and became more consistent, we started to, seek answers just from doctors. Um, it was, midlife crisis and depression and, medication reactions and different reasons that were kind of put behind, his behavior. Because at the time, he was a 44-year-old healthy man physically.
Right.
And so
And he didn't know. I mean, what was going on, right? I mean, he was.
he didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we would ask him, like, do you feel different, and he didn't really, nothing was alarming to him. He would sleep, he was sleeping irregular, would sleep more, loved sweets, had a major sweet tooth there for a long
Right.
time. And really was, it was just consistent and persistent enough that we didn't stop until we were satisfied really with an answer. And when I say satisfied, that's very relative. In April, May 2019, we finally landed at the neurologist, and they did an MRI. And that neurologist actually called us back the day Mackenzie was graduating high school.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, bless her heart, I can't even remember the graduation. I think we were just in shock, really, because that phone call was the neurologist telling us that there was significant brain atrophy. And that his, assumption was that Craig had FTD. We were literally getting ready in the hours before graduation for Forney High School that year, trying to get dressed, through our tears to go through with this graduation that we just found out this devastating news. Terrible timing, but I did a quick Google search on what this was prior to leaving. And, wrong thing to do, because all I read was untreatable, terminal, progressive, all these terrible, things. And really, I mean, in that moment, just fear set in, unrest, just life hadn't been the same since.
Right. I can't imagine that. I mean, a phone call like that, obviously, is just, it turns everything upside down. And you're in that moment where you want answers and they're just not going to come fast enough. And you want to hear something, and I didn't know that about the graduation. I didn't know the timing of that was when, you got the phone call. And now, are you a researcher too? Like, do
Oh
you dig
yeah.
in? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what that I thought that was the truth, because I mean, Donna, obviously my wife Donna's the same way. And so, and you've got to be, when you get that, you got that balance between, I want to celebrate Mackenzie's graduation and all that, but at the same time you're like, I've got to figure out what's going on, and I've got to get some answers. And surely, I can't imagine, Anna, that's
Yeah.
moving forward with that.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating. We When we went back to the neurologist, it was probably within a week or two of that call. I asked him, I said, how do I know what to expect? Like, what do we do? What am I supposed to do? Like, how do I proceed forward? And I don't know if you've dealt with neurologists very much, but they're short and very direct. He gave me about 15 minutes of his time. And part of that, he said, you're going to know. The day's going to come. You're going to have a light bulb moment. And you're going to know that from that day forward, that Craig's not going to be able to work or take care of himself or, be able to protect himself. And that light bulb day was just a month after we got the diagnosis.
Really?
It was, yeah. So, I mean, it was June 2019, and he had to stop working. Really lost his independence, honestly,
Yeah.
at that point, because we couldn't leave him alone out of, fear for himself.
So it began like in 2018 is when y'all started noticing what was happening, and then just progressively you just were looking for answers, and progressively you had to find the neurologist, and so that's crazy. Like just a month later, you were at that moment in your life, and just for everybody, just for everybody listening, as far as the FTD, and I'm not gonna say it right, so I'm not even gonna try right now, but just I guess explain kind of what that is,
Sure.
for people, because when you got the phone call, obviously you had to figure out what are we dealing with here.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, I guess, misunderstandings, or just, you know, not knowing the full, I guess, truths behind everything that dementia itself entails. Dementia is an umbrella for neurological disorders. So Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. FTD is a form of dementia. ALS falls under dementia. There are a lot of different brain disorders that fall under the dementia umbrella. FTD is very different than something like Alzheimer's because they don't, patients who have FTD, and this is my personal experience with Craig, he did not forget things. He did not forget people. He didn't not know what was going on. He was very aware. He just couldn't communicate. He could not
Wow.
he could not take care of himself, and he could not communicate. And when someone can't communicate after they've been able to communicate for their entire life, you know, it's it's startling to them and to others, and you the things that you have to do just to, request help, or, when you have a need and you can't communicate, that's a completely, foreign look
Yeah.
and feel.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And so is it, when you say atrophy, it's just a deterioration
The
of.
brain the brain cells are dying. When a brain atrophies, the brain cells are dying and they do not repair. So
Yeah.
um, slowly, Craig's brain died until, it shut down his body functions.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and I only kind of, I just appreciate you walking us through this, because I think we were talking early last week, and I think Bruce Willis as has the same disease, right? And so it's kind of,
Yeah.
and I know you've become an advocate for it. And at the end of this, I really want to hear that as well. But not many people know about. I knew nothing about it. Obviously, I got diagnosed with multiple myeloma. I didn't know anything about that either. But so I
Yeah.
think there's all these things out there, and then when someone acquires it or gets it for whatever reason, and I think there's some questions I've got, like, is there a reason? What anything like that? Is it just what causes it? Where does it come from?
So there's a couple of different types of FTD. What Craig had was the behavioral variant of FTD. So it's abbreviated BVFTD.
Mm-hmm.
And really, they diagnose you with that based on your initial symptoms, like what your initial symptoms present as. And because his initial symptoms were like more behavior driven, that's why he had that classification.
Okay.
The PPA version, which is what people recognize likely from the Bruce Willis story, is the aphasia, the primary progressive aphasia, and that affects, communication, all kinds of communication. Craig, that he also developed that, so he was nonverbal by early 2021. Um, so after
Hmm.
losing all that he lost, um, keep in mind this is during COVID. So
Yeah,
the
that's a whole
girls,
nother. Yeah.
the girls were home doing school from home. I was working from home, and we were doing our best to take care of this 275-pound man of ours that, you know, wasn't able to follow instructions like he once was, and he wasn't able to take care of himself. Um, he tried really, really hard to continue to like do things, but he just couldn't complete tasks properly. One night he it's kind of fun thinking back now, but he was making us dinner. He wanted to make dinner, and he made hamburger helper, and he forgot to add the liquid to the hamburger helper. So it was just hamburger meat and noodles and the packet of seasoning. And he told us when dinner was ready, and he sat down and started eating it without the liquid. And it did not faze him. It did not bother him. I mean, it was a meal, and he was happy and satisfied for that. And, it was just one of the sweet things that he did. He was
Yeah.
constantly trying to, you know, still take care of us and himself, even.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing about Craig. I mean, for those that are listening or watching, I mean, and didn't know him, I mean, just from my experience of being around, this guy was super, like, that was not him. I mean, he took care of himself, took care of you guys. He was, he was, like I said, in the garage, this was a dude,
Mhm.
and he was, um, always out there and just engaging. And so I know this is, like you said earlier, it was such a stark contrast that you guys were experiencing. And so I can't even imagine. I mean, for me, I'm just trying to think, knowing, not being able to obviously relate because there's no way you can unless you've been through it, but just imagining what he was thinking, what he was dealing with,
Yeah.
being who he was and taking care of you guys and wanting to take care of you guys. And like that meal, that example that you gave us is a beautiful example of a guy, hey, I'm fighting to stay here and do what I can do, right? And um so that's why it was such a, I can't imagine, just a
Yeah.
big contrast that it was for you guys.
Yeah, during that, it was 14 months that, we were able to keep him at home, and take care of him. And that was a really, really tough 14 months. As you can imagine, um, the days were long, the nights were long. Um, Exhaustion had set in mentally and physically and financially and emotionally.
Gosh,
And,
I can't imagine.
we were trying to survive, um, in every way that we could.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, in August of 2020, It was right before the girls were all going to start school for the year. We decided that it was time to get help. And it wasn't something that we could afford. It's not what we wanted. I had always said from the get go, from the very beginning, that I was going to take care of them until the end. And it broke my heart that I had to ask for help, and I had to move him out of our home, out of his home, um, because nothing was the same since then. There's been a void, that, um, we just can't find comfort, in that void just yet. But we luckily had him admitted into Three Forks, just a mile up the road. So August 2020, we moved him there because it was just up the road. I was there every day. I worked during the day, and as soon as my work day was over, I went up to Three Forks and I took care of him. Um, he he still had all of his pride. I tried my very, very best to protect his dignity as best, I could. Um,
Right.
he didn't like for others to help him, with a lot of the caregiving stuff. So, I got to, do all of the caregiving duties, on a nightly basis. That also included, multiple loads of laundry every single night. Just the supplies that we went through to take care of them. I mean, were something we had, like, subscribed orders with Amazon, and, we would have to, like, publish wish lists just, to get help in taking care of all of his needs. Um, thank goodness we have an incredible village, and they always showed up for us, whether it was in supplies, or, helping with finances, or, being supportive of the girls when we couldn't be there. Um, it was always, we always felt love.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I think that you can't survive without that, And you had given me some pictures. This is one for you guys that are this is, and I'm just trying to, we kind of build the timeline and stuff like that too, because I think what you just talked about is, his independence and not wanting to have the care given, but you being in a position where you had to make these decisions, and really, I mean, are you communicating these decisions with him? And this picture here is before everything took place, right? So if you guys that are listening, it's a picture of you guys, I guess. I don't know if it's the beach or swimming or what, but
That was our last normal summer.
okay.
And I love the picture because Craig's literally holding us all in his arms.
I was going to say that because you said that earlier, the void. I mean, this guy was a presence, right? He didn't just show up, he showed up.
Really,
And
really did.
yeah. And so this was the summer, so this would have been the summer of 2018.
Right. Yeah.
And then you gave me a couple other pictures too. I was going to kind of build the timeline. And so then this here was this picture of y'all's family.
So that
I don't know if
was,
I'm in the right time.
yeah, that was shortly after diagnosis. And we intentionally set up a studio photo shoot for our family, knowing that this was probably going to be the last, kind of staged photos that we would all get together. So that was in 2019.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, how, and I want to get back to the support thing in a second, but I I try to put myself in y'all's position in that moment where you just know. I mean, there's nothing you can do, and so you're doing what you can to document and to preserve these moments, right?
Yep.
And make sure you've got them. And the one thing about all, I said this to you earlier, all your pictures, your girls, the smiles on their, they have the best smiles, and all some other pictures. And if you guys that are listening, they're all beautiful, and just these huge radiating smiles. And so you guys are all in the loop, and they're all knowing why we're doing this, and where this is headed. And I mean, as far as talk about them in this moment too, like how are they handling it? I mean, that's a stupid question, I guess. I don't know, but
You
how
know,
did you how did y'all navigate that? I guess.
it's very different looking back at it now. I know for me in the moments, it was, just keep on going,
Yeah,
doing all that I could. But at the same time, we had two in college and two in high school. So Sam and Mackenzie were in college, and Tori and Mandy were still in high school. Tori graduated in 2020. Um, it made the norms of graduating high school and going off to college different for us. But, in reality, what is normal? Society
no,
a
exactly. Yeah,
lot of times like tries to like portray a picture of how things should happen. And we know based on personal experiences that nothing really goes as we plan or as we
no,
expect it. So you
no,
learn
it
to
doesn't.
just go with the flow,
Yeah,
make
I
the
mean,
most of it.
yeah. And at this point, I mean, you're having to step into a role where you're handling everything, you know, and
Yeah.
with the girls and with Craig and I don't know, Annie, just the strength and tenacity, the example. And I know it wasn't like that every day. Obviously, it was like you said a while ago. You just kind of walk into this new normal, and and how you just move into it. And I think people move into it, and so we all move into it different ways. Whatever we all say something, and in this moment, I just think the way that you guys stepped into this and just met it head on and walked it out. Um, and I know there's a lot of factors that gave you the strength to be able to do this. Like you said, the village around you and having people around you and your faith and just every aspect of it. But I think for people listening or watching, just hearing how you move through it vulnerably and authentically and, um, because at that point, I mean, you just have to figure it out,
Yeah.
and get the help that you need to make it happen.
Take care of, your people.
Yeah.
I've been laser focused on taking care of my people, the best I can. And I haven't always done a great job, and I haven't been available, or, you know, um, I haven't been able to be everywhere all the time. But it was the best that we all gave, the most that we could, and the best that we could, at all times.
Yeah.
One of the one of the hardest parts that I was very bitter about throughout the journey is because this is such a rare disease and it was so unknown, there was no support, financially, or from government insurance. Just there was no support to take care of Craig or our family. Literally overnight we went from a two income family to a single income family, and you know how much it just a large family of six, just
Right.
cell phone bill, is impactful. And throughout the journey, there were a lot of times that I had no idea how we would even get through that month. And our friends showed up. They threw a benefit poker tournament in the beginning. And we had incredible support. And some of our family, put out, our story and, similar to, some other, sickness journeys that families have been on, we just accepted the help that we could get. And that's hard. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's really, it's very, especially when like you need it really bad. It's hard to accept, especially, large items of help. And it was really tough. And, aside from that, Craig worked for UPS and Team Care is our insurance. And he, jumping into his story, after he was at Three Forks, so he went into memory care August of 2020. By February that was the day we moved him in. By February of 21, he was already on hospice. So 5 months into him being in memory care, he was put on hospice. He'd really just at that point lost the ability to take care of himself at all. And there was nothing more that could be done. He was on hospice for 18 months, which is unheard of, really.
Yeah.
But he was that ill that he was on hospice for 18 months. And that takes a toll. It takes a toll on, the people around that are watching that slowly and, trying to survive. So midway through that, after he'd already been on hospice for 10 months, Team Care canceled all of Craig's coverage. So medical, prescription, life insurance, everything. And I spent the good part of 2021 and 2022 prior to when he passed fighting those battles, just to take care of my husband, to take care of our family, just to get what I felt was, at a minimum, just the assistance that I felt like he deserved. And that stemmed from there not being enough awareness. There were comments made like during a lot of the insurance appeals process that, he wasn't dying from the right thing.
Golly. Yeah.
Like, how do you tell somebody that they're not dying from the right thing?
Yeah.
And keep in mind all throughout this, I tried not to share like some of those details with Craig just because I knew that they would induce anxiety that was unnecessary for him. But he was well aware of everything that was going on, not because he was part of those things, but because he was always my person. And I'd always talked to him, about what was going on, about, what the girls were up to, showing him pictures. We FaceTime people a lot, in the evenings. And he was very in tune and aware when emotions were heightened and when people were stressed out, and responded, appropriately in those moments, which really it gave us comfort because, when we cried, he'd wipe our tears and he'd tuck our hair behind our ears and, he'd hold our hands and pat us. And, he tried to bring comfort in all the ways that he knew to bring comfort without being able to do anything or say anything.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I think that's the awareness that he had at just all the way through. And for me, this is a, this is a guy, and you as well, but he's not succumbing to, even though he is succumbing to the illness, he's mentally fighting to continue to be present, through the whole process with you guys. And if that makes sense, that's what it seems like to me. Just those
Yeah.
moments that he's available and recognizes what's going on. And I'm not sure, you can elaborate on what he was aware of, but just that, what you're saying right there, I mean, to me, that's amazing, and it's such a testimony of faith and strength and love and all those things and hope in those moments that were with you guys, I guess, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
The things that mattered, he was aware of. And that was a blessing. Not all patients that have
I was fixing to ask
FTD,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
not everybody is as sweet and calm as Craig was. There are, a lot that display aggressive behaviors or act out. Um, and knowing now what I know or what I didn't know then, um, I mean, if we were trapped in our own body and we were trying to do something in our body and in our mind, and we were trying to do something or say something or, get something across and we couldn't, like, I feel like you and I would respond with aggression because
Yeah.
we can't get anybody to understand what's going on. Craig was always very, very patient. And him and I had a really, really intimate, like, special bond. I mean, I could look at him, um, and I knew what he needed, and I knew what he was trying to get or trying to do. Um, I learned sick Craig. Um, and I fell in love with sick Craig. Like, it was a totally different version of Craig than I'd known healthy, but um, he was a beautiful.
Wow. That's, that's amazing. And I think, I mean, just as you said that, I mean, how do you don't think about it that way? I think that's so powerful. I mean, that it's a whole different version of Craig. And, and when you say you fell in love with him like that, that's, wow. That's pretty powerful, Anna. Pretty neat. And I think for me, I think too, as a man, I know like there was a time in my life over the past year where, you know, and no way comparison as far as what he was facing, but just having to rely on other people, during a season of my life where I couldn't lift anything over 25 pounds, and there were certain things I couldn't do while I was preparing for a stem cell transplant, and things I just, I had to back away from and had to yield to. And knowing how strong of a man he was and how independent he was and all those kind of things, and then to hear it's like he found his way to still be who he could be for you guys and for you during that whole process of um, facing something that, because I try to put my mind around what he was thinking and what you guys in that moment when you find out, okay, this is where we're headed. There isn't any way back. There's no way to stop this. And then you just start walking it out, and it accelerates, and you change and you shift and all these things. And I just hear this beautiful story of how not only did you walk it out together, but you loved each other more through it, and you stood beside each other through it. Um, that's amazing, and I think that's what faith can do, when and what love can do, and how powerful it is.
It really is. It brings a new, meaning to unconditional love and to the vows that everybody really says, but sometimes, takes for granted. The richer, poorer, sickness and in health, good times and bad. They're two different lives.
Yeah,
Each of those, they're two different um, scenarios, and being able to hold strong and together through it all, it really is it's a test. It was always, not an easy kind of day-to-day routine by any means, but always, I was just very thankful for all those moments.
yeah, and those moments become. I mean, at that time, you're like going, okay, wait a minute, time. We don't have years. We don't know how long we have, and so these moments have got to be. You know, it's like you're dealing with the reality, like you said earlier, of insurance canceling and not having the right disease and all these things. You're having to battle life and reality, and at the same time, having to embrace the fact that time is no longer, it's short, and
Mhm.
trying to redeem those moments as well. Um, and just listening to it, just being, I'm so thankful that you had people that were present, in the midst of all that for what you needed so that you could absorb those moments, with Craig. And at the same time, like you said, your girls are doing college and they're moving on with life and trying to pursue their futures, and all this is going on too. That's just a lot.
It is.
And yeah, it's a whole lot. It's a lot to
Yeah.
deal with.
Yeah. When we started seeing, after the neurologist, we started seeing a neuropsychiatrist in Dallas, and she really kind of guided us through what to anticipate, and normal, I guess, classic kind of prognosis with this is anywhere between 7 and 10 years. But because Craig was so young, he was 44 when he was diagnosed, she told us up front that we had probably 3 to 5 years. And so, it seemed 3 to 5 years sounds like so long, until you're in it and you're
Yeah.
trying to survive. And, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, we're 2 years into this. That means I don't have very much time left. We don't have very much time left. And, it kind of, was a reminder that, keep pushing on, keep pushing through. And, this wasn't going to last forever. Um, and he made it 3 years and 3 months from the time he was diagnosed until he
Yeah.
passed away.
Yeah. And I've got some pictures here too. If you guys that are listening, you can, if you want to see the pictures, you can go to our YouTube channel and see those. But um, this one here, I'm gonna put this one up of you and him. And this was this when he was at Three Forks?
Yep. That was so sick Craig was silly. He was silly and did a lot of things that made us giggle along the way. But this is really kind of a depiction of sick Craig. You never really knew, you couldn't say, smile and him always smile. He smiled when he was happy.
Right.
Same with laughing. He just didn't understand, his brain couldn't connect instructions that he was given with the action associated with it, but he knew like how to respond with like joy and love. And so
That's
those feelings were never, lost. Um,
wow.
but
That
then
and that had. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love in some of the pictures, and protecting his dignity, we didn't post a lot of the sick
Sure.
pictures. We did a lot of, smiling pictures. But there was most of the time was tough,
Yeah.
behind the smiles and the pictures that were posted.
Yeah. I can't imagine. And then you sent me, I think this picture, this last picture here before we, and you said this was you sent a message in your text message. I think you said like strong to the end or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
brave. Yeah. You said this was 36 hours before Craig had passed away, and just how brave he was. And um,
He was. And I look at this and I mean, I can see his strength and I can see that he was closing his eyes and squeezing that ball in his hand to shield us from what he was feeling and experiencing on the inside. Um, this was Saturday. He passed away early Monday morning. Um, so Friday evening, August 27th, I guess it was 26th, I'd gone up to hang out with them and take care of them like I did every day. And I walked into the dining room at Three Forks, and Craig was sitting in a chair, and he had his eyes closed. At the time, he was sleeping, but I knew that looking at resting Craig, that something was very wrong.
yeah.
And that was, called hospice, made a phone call to my mom, because I needed my mom. And then, contacted the girls, came home, and, the college girls came home. We spent all day Saturday that weekend. It was just me and Craig and the girls. We had a wonderful day together. It was just us. They brought him all of his favorite snacks and drinks. They brought him Whataburger. He loved the fries, and the milkshake, and he didn't finish them. He couldn't finish them, but man, you could tell that he was just really enjoying the taste. And he stayed awake most of that day with us. And as that day came to an end, I stayed with him all weekend. That Sunday, our families came and everybody had a chance to hug Craig. And, he was very happy to see everybody. He smiled at everybody, hugged everybody, kissed them on their cheeks and held their hands and wiped their tears. And I remember the hospice nurse told us that day that, he probably had 10 to 14 days. And his sister, who is a nurse, said, "No way. I mean, he's so good. There's no way that he's about to, pass." But, his body was given out. And that night, Sunday evening, after everybody left, um, he finally relaxed enough um, to allow, his body to do what it was doing. Um, at some point, I sleep won me over because I was fighting it, tooth
Yeah.
and nail. And I remember holding his hand and just feeling like everything's okay right this moment because I could feel his warmth in his hand. Um, and at some point, I fell asleep. And I remember when I woke up, I knew by the temperature, that this was, it wasn't going to be 10 to 14 days, it was hours.
Yeah.
Um, and that was that was a tough weekend. It's
Yeah. I can't.
ingrained in our minds for
Yeah. Sure. Wow. Well, and I mean, honestly, I mean, and I think just understanding. I mean, what a this disease that is so rare that not many people know about. And I think just you sharing, you know, the story that you're sharing, and not just here with us, but how you're sharing it, just in your daily life, and um, the just becoming a proponent or an advocate for FTD, because it's literally the brain just stops, right? And so I mean, the brain tells our bodies what to do, and our heart to beat, our our lungs to breathe, right? And so at that point, it can't send the signals that the body needs. Correct?
Yep, yep. So the the last couple of hours, the hospice nurse was able to tell me, go ahead and, get the girls and, everybody come up, that it was, almost time. And so we were all with him right by his side. We got to say everything that we needed and wanted to say. And I know he heard us and I know he felt it. Um, his dad was there and his brother and my parents were there. Um, it was not a, peaceful, calm ending. And that made it very difficult on all of us, and, has made for a very difficult grief journey after the fact. Um, it's hard to see, someone that you love so deeply, suffer, even if for a short period of time.
Right.
And, you know, the sights and the sounds and the, everything that you never want to know about, you know, is
Mm.
there in your face. Um, and, as, the solo parent, left, I'm wanting to protect my kids. Um, and I can't. I couldn't shield them from this, and, I couldn't make it stop. And that was very difficult to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine. And I don't know, when this whole freakcast thing, and just hearing your story, I'm sitting there going, it's over. I want to say overwhelming, right? But it's also knowing that for us in our journey, and you guys being in that moment, and like you said, the grief journey, just trying to process that, because in the moment you're so absorbed in living, and you're so absorbed in trying to take care of things, and trying to make sure things stay afloat, make sure the girls are okay, make sure Craig's got what he needs, and everybody's doing their thing. And then in that moment of finality, it's like everything ceases, right? Everything stops. And that's all that matters. And is that moment being there, and as difficult as it was, and having to work through it. I'm just sorry that you guys had to go through all that, and hate that, um, for you guys, and for your family, for the girls. But then, like, moving past that moment, and beginning to rebuild and to heal, and the questions, and I guess that's the thing we try to, talk about. There's so many things. I mean, as you're talking, there's so many things that going through my mind, of just uncertainties and challenges and difficulties and unknowns and things that are beyond us. And that question of why,
Mhm.
why, what in the world? I mean, what's this about?
Why do bad
And
things happen to good people? Yeah.
right, exactly. And I was talking to, um, this this friend of mine last week, and we were talking about, that very thing. And I always have said, through everything that I've faced, and I know that you believe this way as well, but I believe just in our conversations, but you know that wrestling with God, why, what, where, how, all those things. And throughout my journey, I've been very confident of the fact, look, God didn't do this to me. God didn't. He didn't. But then I have to also wrestle with the question, okay, but he didn't stop it either. And here we sit through it. And I know just, and I would love for you to share, just kind of, first of all, thanks for sharing that, because I know it's difficult to share that, but you alluded to your village and family and friends and connections, and just moving forward. I mean, at that point, then that's, I don't know. I don't even know whether to ask the question. Maybe you kind of track with me as far as what I'm saying, but it's like you go from that moment where, he passed away at that time, and then you move to a whole new phase, a whole new,
Yeah.
um, you know,
And it's a very foreign um
oh yeah. I mean,
feeling,
yeah,
a
it's not the way
very,
it's meant to be.
yeah. I mean, it grief has really taken us by surprise. Of course, this was our, closest loss.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah.
and going through, grief share and going to grief therapy and stuff like that, there's so many things that we have learned, and one of those being that, you know, grief being the price that we pay for love. And sadly, the deeper that we love, the harder we grieve. It makes it so incredibly difficult to see the light. Um, After Craig passed, I mean, honestly, between then and now, it's only been 16 months, and we just hit day 500 last week, and for whatever reason, that was a significant number. It felt like a big number, a lot of days, since
Mm-hmm.
we'd been with them. Um, and our family and our friends have shown up. And, the way that we have, loved, or the way that we loved, Craig while he was sick and here, they've done that in return for us.
That's
When
beautiful.
we haven't been able to take care of ourselves or each other or show up, and without that support from others, I don't know, how it would, have looked up until this point. Um, but one of the beautiful things that have resulted from FTD is the bond that the girls and I have is now something that just feels, untouchable.
Yeah.
There's not anything that we can't go through after what we already have been through. There's nothing that's too bad. There's nothing that's too sad. There's nothing that we won't show up for each other for. And you were talking a little while ago about, you don't know the reasons why. And, we met and we came together with so much baggage that we, worked through and lived with. And to get to the point that we are now, it feels like there was purpose in it all.
Right.
There was, we didn't have a clue what it was going to be, but it feels very, we were right where we were supposed to be in
Yeah.
every moment, every day.
Yeah. And I think, and that's the thing, like, I just love what you just said, because that, you don't know, right? In the middle of it all, you're just surviving, you're just trying to move forward, but then reflecting and looking back, you see, like you called it, that purpose. And that's a choice, Anna, that you guys and that you've made to see it that way. And that's inspirational. It's encouraging. It's something that I know has not come into your life, and that you are saying that. And I know that it's not been an easy journey to come to a place where you can say that. And that, because we have choices in the middle of all of it, how we view it, how we look at it. You've had choices, and sorry, but it's just it's powerful. That's a powerful statement that you just made, to look back at that and see it, and to recognize it. So, I mean, good for you guys in the middle of that. I know that comes from a power way greater than us, because we can't do that on our own. That's faith, and looking for me, and I know, I feel like you feel the same way in that, for sure.
Yeah.
To see purpose in the middle of it. And you talking about the girls, if you guys are listening, I'm putting a picture up of Anna and the girls, and I think you said this was after the funeral, and just kind of like, it's almost like what you said, this was kind of a benchmark photo that said, okay, look, we've walked through this together, we've been together, and we're going to stay together through it all. And again, this isn't like, I know life's not perfect, right? There's still, you still live it, and you still have struggles, you still have difficulties, but like you said, once you go through something like this together, you have all these choices that you make of how you're going to respond. And you have, and even Craig, through it all, I think you both led your family to a place to say, look, this is how we're going to deal with this. We're going to be authentic. We're going to be vulnerable. We're going to be real. We're going to be, it's everything that I can see. That's the way it is. And the way you guys have approached it. I mean, you tell me, that's what it looks like.
It absolutely. It's been very raw for all of us, and we've really put, our hearts and our souls, out on public display, is what kind of it feels like sometimes. And that's not easy to do because
No.
it comes with a lot of questions and, oh, I think you should do this, or I don't think you should do this, or I got a better way here. Let me tell you how to, whatever. And,
Right.
if there were answers, I promise I would have, kind of jumped on them, but it doesn't. You showed a picture earlier, and it was us standing outside with Craig the day that we moved him out of our house. And this picture was after his service, and it was Labor Day weekend. I didn't even realize it was Labor Day weekend until much later, but I realize it now, that Saturday. And the funeral director, so after Craig passed away, we had made arrangements to donate his brain because positive diagnosis or confirmed diagnoses of FTD, you can only confirm them post-mortem. And obviously, having children, we needed to know certain things.
Sure.
And we worked with the AFTD organization and the Brain Network, and we donated his brain. So after Craig passed, um, my mom was the one who was tasked with gathering all the ice that she could. And we packed down Craig's head to preserve it as best we could until the funeral home could come get him. Um, and they came and got him, and they took him to New Hope up the road. And a pathologist came there and retrieved his brain, and it was sent to the Mayo Clinic. So we were
Wow.
able to get, a full autopsy and, reports detailing, even the specific protein that caused
Oh, wow.
FTD in Craig. Yeah.
So they were able to narrow down what it was that caused this to even happen in the first place.
Well, the reason that the protein was present is not known, but
Okay.
the protein, which is they call it FUS protein, is what was present in his brain and what caused the deterioration. Um, so, there's we have some answers. We have some answers after the fact. And, sometimes it's nice knowing answers, but answers don't change the feelings and the
Mm-mm.
emotions, that
Mm-mm.
are tied to all of
Right.
that.
Right.
And sometimes I know I did, thought if I just knew why and I knew how and I knew all of this stuff, I'd be able to accept it and, deal with that
Yeah.
better. And I don't know that anything, any answer could satisfy that.
No.
But
No.
um, when we saw Craig for the first time that weekend, he looked so peaceful. And I was so thankful to you saw some of the pictures of just, kind of his face in anguish, and he tried so hard to protect us. I mean, even in the last, hours, he covered his own face with a washcloth so that we didn't watch him go through what he was going through.
Wow. I guess
And
that's my question is too, and I haven't asked this because I wasn't sure exactly, but like even through it all, like memory wise, knowing who you were, knowing who the girls were, that kind of stuff, was that still present, or did he? I mean,
we
I
knew,
don't know how that worked. I'm just asking that because I don't know the answer to that.
sure, he couldn't communicate. So the extent of what he knew, we didn't know.
I got you.
But if you knew Craig, he was
Yeah.
very, very open and very, very direct. And even in sickness and being nonverbal, you could look in his eyes and you could hear what he is trying to say.
Right.
You could feel what
I,
he's trying to express.
and what a gift that had to be for you guys, for him to be able to do that, through the whole journey, and even there at the last day, like you said, to put a cloth over his face. That's supernatural to some degree. It's something that's beyond us. That's, in my opinion,
Yeah,
it's just for him to be able to, just incredible,
yeah, yeah.
and
Um,
strength.
so you're a lot of strength,
Yeah.
I mean, and he was behind it all. And I know, we're all very confident that, he knew exactly what was happening. I mean, he hung on, he protected his girls to
Yeah.
the last minute as best he could,
That's beautiful.
He so by the time he had been taken away, you can imagine kind of what, the sights that we're seeing. And so when we saw him for the first time and we saw what peaceful, free from FTD Craig, we kind of saw that version of him again. We were really, really comforted. And it sounds very kind of strange, but, we couldn't leave his side. After we saw him, it was a struggle to let him go after the service. And our funeral director, Michael Capehart, who's an angel to us, he said, girls, get in your car. Craig and I are going to take you home. And he had Craig in the hearse, and it was just the girls behind. We did not have our family or any of our, supporters that had come out. And we followed Craig home. He brought us home. And so that picture, was the last time that Craig brought us home.
So this picture right here.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
so that's the hearse.
That is.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
If you guys that are listening, that's a picture of Anna and the four girls, and so he basically brought y'all home and then took the hearse back. And
Yep.
wow, that's wow.
It was such a, atypical move. I don't think that that's something.
No, I don't think that's common, right?
But he knew what we needed in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of those things that, will be a lasting, very, good final goodbye.
Yeah.
We didn't have to drive away from Craig. Craig drove away from us.
Man, that is so good. Good for him. That was a great that was that was a great move. Like, that was a divine moment for you guys for sure to be able to have that.
Yeah.
Wow, Anna, that's awesome. Well, I think like, and one thing that, and you've already done such a good job of this, just and as I want to close with just kind of talking about the disease and just because I think for me, relating just from situations, who do you talk to? When you find out that this diagnosis has been given to you, and we'll get to that in a second. This whole journey, and you come to the end, and then Michael does what he does to bring y'all home. And that way, because that's a big deal. I mean, just losing, um, whenever my dad passed away back in June, which is, and just kind of leaving everything behind. That was, which is completely different, obviously, than what you guys faced, and but just being able to have that kind of closure, where you come home and he's able to make sure you guys are home and brought you home and you're there, and then moving forward. And you alluded to this a while ago. You looking back, seeing purpose and seeing, how things work together. Because me and guy was on here last week. We talked about how that people will say, well, God's got a purpose, and which He does. I mean, I don't question that, but at the same time, I think there's so many different things we can say because you can't really understand that purpose until you've walked all the way through whatever it is, or at least gotten into the middle of what you're facing. And then because like you said earlier, we're just trying to survive. We're trying to navigate this. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to see what we do next. We're living every moment. And like, there's a few things that you said, like seeing the peace in, how peaceful Craig was and not wanting to leave his side, just knowing he was at peace, which was comforting. And then the other part of just the acceptance of what was, and then where do we go from here? And, like you said, the 500 days. And I just think it's such a journey. And I think for people listening and for people watching, that your story and you sharing this story is going to make such a difference because life is precious. and short and can be interrupted, in a moment. And we worry and fear and fret and all that. And you were talking about, having to do things differently and people offering suggestions. And, you know, we are who we were before any of this happened to us. We have these things in our past, these, like you said, that baggage and the things we bring with us, but grace and forgiveness and hope and love are powerful things in our lives that we have. And, judgment and fear and doubt and condemnation and all that stuff, all that does is bring negativity and pain. And it's dished out by people that, and I say this, we dish that out when we are insecure in where we are and who we are, and we're at a loss at times in our own lives personally. But when you face something like what you faced, and when people embrace the struggles of their life and embrace the baggage and say, look, okay, we're going to deal with this and move forward. And, like you said about you and your girls being able to stand together, all that stuff matters. It is such, and that's what I hear in everything that you're sharing. And, because you just come to a point where you're just like, okay, well, I really don't care what we're going to do what's best for us and what we believe is best for us,
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah. Being able to take care of Craig, I think, will be one of my greatest honors in life. The hardest thing I've ever done, and the most beautiful thing. I'm thankful for that. Despite, all the tough and rough and hard times that this brought, I do truly feel like we are better. We are changed. We are changed people.
Right.
But we are changed for the better. We can empathize with others now. We, have very little, participation in anything that the world really feels like is important most of the time. Our focus and our priorities are so different now. And we wouldn't have known this changed version of ourselves without what we have gone through.
Yeah.
And, I'm thankful that we can recognize that now. It'll be something that we live with for the rest of our life. It will never go away. And,
Right. Well, like you
doesn't
said earlier,
really.
it's a void. Yeah, it's a void that doesn't you don't replace it. It's just gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So we take Craig with us everywhere we go, and we go on vacations, and we all have,
Right.
you know,
Well,
we all have little, we carry these vials. It's so silly, but we all have them. So Craig's dad and his siblings and all the girls and I, and, anytime we, want to hang on to him or hold his hand, we just kind of reach for that. And, it's something that we regularly carry in our purses and, take to concerts and on trips and, all kinds of stuff. So,
that's so good. And you know what? That's the thing. And my wife and I talk about this a lot, and our family talks about this a lot. In the standpoint that it's so much bigger. Life is so much bigger than what we realize, and I believe in that. There's a verse um, in Hebrews that, of course, I like to quote these verses, but this verse says that since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us run the race before us, and move forward in life. And I'm paraphrasing it, but there is a cloud of witnesses, and it's someone that's beyond us. We don't know how, when you close your eyes in this life, and for us that believe and have faith, I believe, and and God through Christ, and that's important to me. But there's a reality of it too, where there's things that God and life shows us, and I think carrying those vows around. I mean, there's just it's the healing process that we all choose to do the way we do it,
Mhm.
and how we feel like is best for us. And when my dad passed away, I didn't realize, there's certain things you just don't recognize, but butterflies were a big thing to him. And of course, cardinals have always been, powerful. You see things, and people. I've had real religious people. They'll question, all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, whatever. I don't really listen to them anyway. But I came home, and so I realized that butterflies were a big deal to my dad. And so I came home, and we were in the backyard, and it was in the summer. He passed away in June, and so we were in the summer, and I was out front, and and literally we have never seen this huge butterfly that all of a sudden just started showing up. Excuse me, and I'm not, before everybody gets crazy, I'm not saying that was dad, whatever. I'm just saying that there's these things that connect us,
Yeah.
and things that when you go through, things like that we find hope in. And there is nothing, I think there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah.
And you just become more aware of things around us. Like you said earlier, you see things differently, your vision changes, and your hope becomes stronger in the middle of it. But even that, I mean, and I mean, that's still a choice that we make. And and maybe there's people listening or watching, to and those choices that we make, and the condition that you're in now. I say condition, that's not a good word, but the where you have decided to be today in your life, 500 plus days later, you know, going through grief share, making decisions. It's like, I think when you, like you said, took care of Craig, and you see how Craig responded, it's like it launched you into a new direction of how this is how we're going to approach life. This is how we're going to deal with it. We're not going to mourn as people that have no hope, because we have hope. And we're going to take this story and share it. And like you said earlier, when you become vulnerable in front of the people, and your Instagram page is scrolling across the bottom that people can follow about your FTD family journey, um, people can cast judgment. They can make us, all that stuff can happen, you know. But nonetheless, I just want to emphasize the fact that it is a choice that we submit to healing, and we submit to joy, and we submit to love, and we submit to encouragement, all those positive attributes, because instead you're not bitter, and you're not angry, and you're not resentful. Although I'm sure in your journey you've had to deal with all those kind of emotions. You go through the cycles of everything, and um but even through that, Anna, it just is so encouraging and inspiring to me, and I hopefully to everyone listening and watching, that you've made this choice, because it's definitely making an impact, on people's lives around you. And so I
Well,
just kind of wanted to throw that, because it is a choice, right?
yeah.
It's a decision that we make.
I mean, life was really fun with Craig. He was a big personality, and, really, like you said, the girls and I have a choice. We can let him die and it be over with, or we can keep him alive through what we are doing. Um, and, the places that we go. And that's what we choose to do, because that does bring us comfort.
Right.
I wholeheartedly believe in all of those signs that come to
Me
us.
too.
You
Yes.
ask any of our girls, we have had multiple occasions, and there is no explanation for anything that has happened except for Craig must have been there. He had to have been, I mean, and sure, I'm sure we tell ourselves that more than, it actually is. But when you start to look for the comforting things, and you start
Right.
to
Right.
find comfort in some of those things, it's just, it makes you feel like that void is, just a little bit you know, it's closing just a little bit, on some
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
We see those types of things.
Yeah. And it makes a difference. It really does. And nobody really knows, I mean, how that works. I mean, I, come from a background of obviously, um, being in church and faith based things, and we, but I think the thing that that my wife Madonna and I and we always talk about are just how that. I mean, we really don't know how any of that works, and when we experience something, and when you guys experience something like or experience something like you guys have experienced, and you go through that, then hope and all those things, like you said, those moments are precious, and I believe they're real, and here's the thing: we don't put our faith in those moments, right? It's just that I think our faith, it creates moments like that, and so we're not. It's just we just walk out life and experience it like that. So I think, um,
I sent
I just.
one of those moments. I sent you a picture of the girls and I in
Oh
Yellowstone.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna pull that up. I'm gonna pull that up. Here it is. And you guys that are listening, it's a picture of Anne and the girls at Yellowstone. It's beautiful. You should go to the YouTube channel and take a look at it if you get a chance. But okay, go ahead and tell us about that.
So this was not even 2 months after Craig passed. And really, there's smiles in this picture. It's a beautiful picture. I love this picture
It's
of the girls
gorgeous.
and I.
Yeah.
The scenery, Yellowstone, was a beautiful, beautiful place. I would love to go back one day. But while we were there, and I kind of called this our escape from reality. We've run a lot. We've run to escape reality on a lot of occasions, and it's what we need just to re-energize, to reconnect, to refuel, so that we can keep going on. And this was November of 2022, and Craig died August 29th of 2022. The sun, we stayed in Yellowstone all day. We lost track of time. We're girls. Craig probably would have been yelling at us. I'm sure that, we were doing
Yeah.
all kinds of, things that we should have been smarter about, right? And the sun started setting while we were in Yellowstone. And I'm not kidding you. We got stuck on a bridge that was over, like, connecting two of the overpass or mountains. And there was a herd of bison on this bridge, and we were stuck behind this herd of bison. Okay. And I thought, oh my gosh, we are not going to make it out of Yellowstone before dark. I don't even know how to, like, push our car through this herd of bison. They didn't care that we were there, and there were much more of them, and they were much stronger. Granted, this is like the first time I've ever really driven on this much ice and snow too. And we are panicking because we like to freak out and panic, when
Yeah.
we get in stressful situations. And from the rear view mirror, I see a brown UPS package car coming up
Oh.
from behind. Explain to me why
Yeah.
there is a brown UPS package car in Yellowstone at sunset, but we were able to follow that UPS truck out of
Really.
Yellowstone. And for those that know us, UPS is part of our story. Craig worked for UPS. He was one of those package drivers. And from the instant I saw that UPS truck, I told the girls, that's Craig. He's coming to save us. He's coming to get us out of Yellowstone. And we followed that UPS truck out. And, it was just kind of one of those things that, like, we're not alone. We're
No,
not
that's
alone.
exactly right. That's exactly right. That's amazing. I've never heard that before. That's incredible. And and that's the thing. It's like we aren't alone, and we never are. And God is. and faith and all those things are so powerful in that he's going to provide those moments in our lives like that, that we need just to move forward. So what a cool story. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So did he just go through the UPS truck go through the bison, or how did that work?
Yep, we followed him
Really?
out, and then he went his way, and we went our way, and
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
amazing. Well, I want you to talk. I mean, and first of all, thank you for sharing all this. I mean, I could talk to you for hours. Um, but hopefully, and hopefully, this is something too um, that you can share. One of the things that I hope this becomes is that the individual people that are on here that tell their story, they're able to share this with other people. But I know it was so pivotal for me to be able to talk to. There's a lady named Tennille that had a stem cell transplant 20 years ago, and we've known each other for years, but just to be able to talk to her about what I was about to face made a huge difference. Were there people that you were able to talk to that had experienced FTD, or was this something that you just had to navigate pretty much on your own because it was hard to find people that had been through this? I know now, for I think people that face this, I'm sure that I'm guessing this. I don't know this for sure, but that you've had people reach out possibly to you that are that have faced this and that are facing this,
I have.
and that
Yeah.
that and that community now, and not only that, but you're able to contribute to that community, which is something that I'm looking to move forward with multiple myeloma in my own life. Um, but tell me about that, just the connections that you've made and the advocate that you've become for this disease, because that way when people have this slam them in the face, in their life, like you guys did, that there's resources or something there,
Yeah.
that
So
maybe you become aware of now that you didn't know about before.
absolutely. The AFTD organization, and I have their website posted on my Instagram page. Um, they
What
were
is that? Hang on one second.
the
What
Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration,
association?
AFTD.org.
Okay, I'm sorry. One more time. A.
AFTD.org.
Okay. All right.
So they were really our primary source of information. F.
Oh, why not put
Association
S?
Frontal temporal. It could have been my lisp.
No, I don't know. I knew better than that. I'm sorry.
Um,
Yeah.
so
All right.
they
So
were,
AFTD.
yeah, so they were really instrumental in sharing what they knew, and what they had available to us. There was not local support or knowledge of this. Everybody who we came in contact with, we had to educate about the disease and, what it looked like with us. Um, Throughout the journey, I was part of a spouse group, and it was an online support group, but it was the FTD spouse support group. And in that group, I've made lifelong connections. We related with each other on levels that, as a spouse, and a primary caregiver of somebody with FTD, you experience. So their support and their understanding, and their honesty all along the way, was very, very helpful to me. Um, of course, we have, sought therapy and, really, tried to get all the help that we could along the way. Um, Following Craig passing, I'm now part of a support group for, the next chapter. It's called After FTD, the next chapter. And really, it's, still the same honesty and vulnerability, that we are realizing how much we've been through and how much trauma has been, inflicted on us and our children. Um, you know, just different ways that we can support each other through this life, without their dad. Being, that solo, parent now, and really trying to come to terms with everything that the journey inflicted on us, which was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
We're all very much actively still dealing with, a lot of it.
Well,
We've
sure,
got
of course. It's a
PTSD.
ongoing journey.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
anxiety and, panic, attacks and, just you name it, high blood pressure,
Yeah.
things that you just thinking back, obviously living in an elevated, state of stress and anxiety, it does that to the
Right.
body. And you can't even recognize it or take care of yourself so much of the time when you're in the journey. Um,
Right.
but it's so necessary after, you know, when we've survived, to recognize the areas that we've neglected ourselves and to take care of ourselves. Um, you know, it's what Craig would have done. It's what we did for him. We took care of him. And, our jobs now, or our roles now, are taking care of ourselves and helping others and
Yeah.
spreading awareness and supporting others and, really continuing what Craig gave all of us, continuing that legacy.
Yeah.
Um, we don't want that
And I think that
again.
makes such a difference because it's, again, I go back to, and we all deal with things differently, right? And we all go through what we go through and face what we face. But hopefully, and I hope and pray that maybe somebody listening or watching that has faced, maybe not FTD, obviously, but maybe whatever difficulty that they face, to know that, life's not over. For, we're still here. And as long as we're here, there's a purpose. There is a purpose for us to be here. And now finding that purpose, I love the, like you said, the after FTD and the support. That's one thing, honestly, like that's challenging to me because, um, I'm, and just relating this to me, it's like my wife and my kids and everybody's impacted
Yeah.
by what we go through. And for me, being diagnosed with cancer and those things, and I think, like you said, the trauma and the PTSD and all these things, and it's something that we all have to deal with in our own way. But it's important to deal with it, and to, if we're here and we're breathing, in this life, then there's a reason that we need to move forward
Yeah.
and find out what that purpose is. And so I just love the fact that you guys are doing that together, and I love the fact that there is, someone out there in the world today that may get that same phone call that you got, Mackenzie's graduation day, and that there's somebody like you out there for them to call or to reach out to, or to maybe hear this and to know, you know, um, so much more than you've been able to share here, right? That you can share with them, and just to be able to be present,
Yeah.
in just an impossible situation to deal with, but yet you have to deal with it. And so I think that's amazing, Anna. I love it.
I mean,
It's just what we're meant to do, what we're meant to be.
and I really do. I thank God every day, every moment for our girls. I
Yeah,
mean, just us having each other and leaning on each other has been, I mean, we could not, without a single one of us, it just, we would not be as strong as we are today. We are better together. And, I think that we can all, recognize that and voice that now. Um, you know, the whole everything happens for, a reason. Mandy she was just starting high school when Craig got sick. So she had a very less than ideal, high school experience. And it's taken all of us to help each other get through, to the point we are today. um, just 1 week before Craig passed away, Sam graduated from college. 1 week before. And she had lived in San Marcos for a few years, while going to school, and she moved home a week before. And she was crucial, very instrumental in us being able to continue living at home, taking care of, meals and cleaning, and, making sure that everybody showered and took, their medicine, ate every day. Just the timing of everything, when we say, like, you can't, predict what's going to happen, we can't.
Right.
Never, along the way. But if we trust that everything happens at the right time, in the right time,
Yeah.
we can look back and realize some of that purpose was very intentional. It
Absolutely.
was orchestrated.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I think just having the faith to believe that those moments are there, and when you're in the middle of it, you don't know what's going to happen, but in the back of your mind, you have established yourself as someone that believes and has faith to know, look, it's going to be okay. We know that, and then it shows up, and when we just don't sit back waiting on it, we keep moving forward.
Yep.
And I think, as we are going, then it's one of those things that, because you have to be moving forward, I think, to see those moments come to pass. And that's what you guys were doing and have done, and it's amazing. So
You got to get through it in order to see it. Just
I
keep.
know, I know, I know. You can't look back on something you haven't gone through in the first place, and
That's right.
that's how it works. So, and I can't thank you enough for being on here with us. Thank you for sharing your story, and I don't know, we may have to come back and do another one at some point. So call me and just maybe we could revisit it. But I just appreciate your vulnerability and your faith and your family and just sharing everything with us. And I just know and believe that this is. I'd say this. I've said this several times. I had someone on a while back, and they asked, "Well, how many views or whatever?" And I said, "I don't know. The point isn't how many views we got. The point is that we did it, and that we put it out there. And like you just said, if we have the faith to believe that whoever needs to hear it will hear it, and it will find its way into the ears or the eyes of someone that's struggling. And so thank you for being an example of that. I know, as I say all that, I also know that there's so many moments that, like you said, were that you just can't even get to because um, we're not always just. Sometimes our faith isn't as strong as it is at other times. It's not, and we struggle. But on the other side of it, we make it and we get back, and it makes sense. So thank you for doing
Well,
this with us tonight.
and thank you, Stephen. I think that, our families have known each other the past 11 years for a reason as
Yeah, I
well.
do too. And
Um,
I can't help but think I just you hear a story like yours and think, gosh, man, I needed to be more present, and all this kind of stuff. But a
I
wise person
remember
told.
one time while Craig was sick, and you'll remember this. You stopped by our house and you rang the
Mm-hmm.
doorbell and you
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm sorry that I didn't call or, ask to come by, but I was in the neighborhood and I just felt like I needed to show up. And you were not scared of what you might see, and you had zero judgment, and you sat there and you prayed and you were just present. And
Right.
that is such a wonderful memory that
Yeah.
we had through that journey.
Yeah.
um, and thank you for giving me a safe space to share our story. um, we are a private family. Um, we don't like to put, everything out there. That's hard to do. Um, but sometimes it's necessary because like you said,
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just one person who feels, encouraged or is trying to survive right now,
Yeah.
and doesn't know how, hopefully, they can just keep pushing forward and know that there is another life. It's different, but it's beautiful too.
Right. Exactly. It's there's another verse is song, but beauty for ashes, and it's like something beautiful in the middle of it, it grows out of the ashes of the difficult times of our lives. And that's just true. And so, like you said, it is becomes beautiful in the middle of it, as hard as it is to get through it. And so, it definitely makes a big difference. But thank you, because I do know that, um, just being private, but yet being willing to put this out there like that. And just so you know, I don't know if you see the comments, but you've had some from Nicole and Suzanne and Carrie and Sam and Aaron, and so
Aww,
a lot of cool comments. So
my people.
anyway, yeah, those are your people for
Love them.
sure. So, well, listen, we love you and love your family, love your girls,
We love
and
you too.
yeah, look forward to continuing to live life out loud together. So, um, but make sure you can share this, and we'll make sure we share those websites and stuff like that as well. So,
All right. Well, you keep
all right,
fighting too, okay?
we'll do, absolutely. Thank you for being on here with us tonight,
Thank you, Stephen.
and you bet. All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care.
Okay, you too. All right, bye bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. Well, that was Anna. What an incredible story, right? So, thank you guys for joining in tonight. Goodness, I just I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep. I'm gonna be wired because it's just we need that. I needed that. So hopefully this has been encouraging for you as well. And I'll be telling you who we got coming on next. I'm not sure who that is just yet. I've got a list up here, and so we hadn't confirmed it, but we will have someone here in a couple of days. We're going to do 2 or 3 of these a week and keep putting them out there. And every story matters, and so does yours. And so I hope that you are able to tell it as well. So, all right. I think that's it for the night. And we will take you out with Stay True. Hope you will stay true. Look forward to hearing back from you. Make sure that you go to follow Anna's Instagram page. It's right here coming up on the ticker. I'm going to make sure I leave it up there so you can follow her there. And then aftd.org. And so if you know someone that has been impacted by this disease, make sure you share her Instagram story, because she has documented the journey and stuff like that along the way. And you can learn a lot and encourage other people with that as well. All right. Hey, thanks for joining the Freakcast tonight. And today, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, share it with somebody as well. Follow us if you will. And not so that we can be known, so that we can have the stories that are being told heard by other people, because they can make a difference in people's lives. So, hey, stay true to who you are. We will talk to you later.